5-year-old Lily awoke with an odd sensation in her nose. One she couldn't quite describe, almost like a tickle that wouldn't go away. But what began as a seemingly minor discomfort quickly turned into a bewildering mystery. That morning, a handful of strange purple spots had appeared inside her nostrils, spots that most certainly hadn't been there the night before. As more unusual symptoms surfaced, the Miller family's concern escalated into alarm. Urgent doctor visits, blood tests, and environmental screenings would soon reveal a chilling truth hidden within the walls of their seemingly perfect home. It all started on an ordinary Tuesday. The day began as most did in the Miller household. The gentle hum of the central air conditioning system created a familiar, soothing backdrop as Sarah moved about the kitchen, setting out cereal bowls and brewing coffee. The smell of toast mixed with the faint aroma of cinnamon from a candle burning on the counter. Outside, the neighborhood slowly came to life. Unaware of the strange events beginning to unfold inside the Miller home, Lily wandered in. Still wrapped in the haze of sleep, her tangled hair framed her small face, and she clutched her well-loved stuffed rabbit by one floppy ear. She rubbed her eyes with tiny fists and climbed up onto a kitchen stool. Her usual bright energy noticeably dulled. Sarah offered her a smile. "Morning, sweetheart. Cereal or waffles today?" Lily sniffled, frowning slightly. "My nose feels funny," she murmured, touching it gently, like it's itchy inside. At first, Sarah thought little of it. Kids often wake up with mild cold symptoms. But as she leaned down to take a look, expecting to find the early signs of a runny nose or perhaps the redness of irritation, what she saw froze her in place. Inside Lily's nostrils were several tiny, dark purple spots, not like bruises, and not raised like a rash. They were flat, almost like shadows trapped beneath the surface of her skin. They hadn't been there when Sarah had read her a bedtime story just hours earlier. "Tom," she called, her voice tight with forced calm. "Can you come here? Please?" Tom entered the kitchen adjusting his tie. Ready for work. One look at Sarah's face and the urgency in her voice had him immediately on alert. When he saw the strange markings inside Lily's nose, his brow furrowed in confusion. He knelt beside his daughter, gently tipping her chin up for a closer look. "What on earth?" he muttered. Without wasting another second, Sarah grabbed her phone and dialed their pediatrician. She described Lily's symptoms in detail: the sudden appearance, the unusual color, the location inside her nose. To their relief, Dr. Reynolds made space in his morning schedule, instructing them to bring Lily in right away. At the clinic, Dr. Reynolds conducted a thorough examination. He used a small light and magnifying lens to inspect the purple spots, asking a stream of questions. Had Lily eaten anything new? Had she played with any unusual toys? Could she have accidentally inhaled something? Sarah and Tom shook their heads. Everything about the last few days had been routine: preschool, the playground, home. The initial lab tests revealed no sign of a common virus or bacterial infection. Lily's vitals were stable. Still, the purple spots remained unexplained. Dr. Reynolds prescribed a topical ointment to soothe any potential irritation and advised them to monitor her closely. If the spots spread, if new symptoms developed, or if Lily's condition worsened, they were to contact him immediately. By dinner time, Something had clearly changed. Lily was unusually quiet, picking at her mac and cheese, normally her favorite meal. Her energy was low, and she seemed a little warm to the touch. Sarah's heart sank as she pressed her palm gently to Lily's forehead. A low-grade fever was beginning to set in. That night, after giving her a children's fever reducer, Sarah tucked Lily into bed. She checked the spots again, still no change, but her unease lingered. Lily fell asleep almost instantly, her little body curled around her stuffed rabbit. As Sarah turned off the bedside lamp and stepped quietly out of the room, she couldn't shake the gnawing sense that something far more serious was going on. And the worst part was, they still had no idea what was causing it. Morning arrived with a deep sense of unease, and soon, unmistakable alarm. Lily awoke groggy and disoriented, blinking against the morning light filtering through her bedroom window. As Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, gently brushing the hair from her daughter's forehead, Lily asked a question that stopped her cold. "Mommy, where's my backpack? I'm gonna be late for school." It was Saturday. Sarah forced a smile, trying to hide the spike of anxiety in her chest. "Sweetheart, there's no school today. Remember? It's the weekend." Lily looked at her with visible confusion, as if trying to understand words she had heard before but couldn't quite place. Moments later, in the bathroom as Sarah helped her brush her teeth, she noticed something even more disturbing: new purple spots. This time on the roof of Lily's mouth. They mirrored the ones inside her nose but appeared darker now. More numerous. Still flat, but spreading. And it wasn't just her appearance that had changed. When Sarah asked her to go put on her shoes, Lily stared at them in a long, vacant silence. Then, with clumsy hands, she picked them up and began attempting to slide them onto her hands like mittens. Sarah's heart dropped. This wasn't tiredness. This wasn't a cold. Something was deeply, terribly wrong. They didn't bother calling the doctor this time. There was no discussion. No packing of snacks or planning for the day. Tom scooped Lily into his arms while Sarah grabbed her purse. Within minutes, they were on the road, racing back to the pediatric clinic. Dr. Reynolds was already waiting when they arrived, alerted in advance by the receptionist. The concern in his eyes was visible as he examined Lily again, this time with a gravity that hadn't been there just 24 hours before. He didn't waste time. After a few brief notes and a glance at Lily's mouth, he stepped out of the room to place a call. Within 10 minutes, a new doctor entered, Dr. Kararma, a specialist in environmental medicine. Tall, composed, and quiet-spoken. She moved with a calm authority that paradoxically made the room feel even more tense. She introduced herself softly and crouched beside Lily, gently asking her name and if anything hurt. Her examination was careful, thorough. She looked at Lily's eyes, checked her reflexes, and studied the dark spots with a handheld light. But when she turned to speak with Sarah and Tom, her questions veered in an unexpected direction. "How long have you lived in your current home? Have you recently done any renovations? Any leaks or water damage? Strange smells? Headaches?" Tom replied cautiously, trying to remember details. "We moved in about 8 months ago. We did some work in the basement, finished it out, and replaced the HVAC system around the same time. Everything else has been normal. Dr. Karama nodded slowly, taking notes. When she finally looked up from the chart, her expression had changed. There was no panic in her face, only the firm, focused seriousness of someone about to deliver life-changing news. "I've seen this before," she said. "Though it's extremely rare in someone Lily's age." She paused before continuing. "The spots." Her confusion, "These are consistent with exposure to a specific strain of toxic black mold. Scientifically, it's called Stachybricardum. But most people know it by its more ominous name, Stachybotrys. The black mold associated with severe health risks." Sarah's stomach clenched. She had heard of black mold before, on the news, in passing conversations, but never thought it could touch their own lives. It seemed like something that happened to other people, in neglected buildings, not in their warm, freshly renovated home. Dr. Karama's tone remained professional, but the urgency in her voice was unmistakable. The purplish discoloration in the mucous membranes, particularly combined with neurological symptoms like confusion and impaired motor function, suggests the mycotoxins have already entered Lily's bloodstream. She took a deep breath before continuing. "This strain is highly aggressive, and in young children, whose brains are still developing. It can cause irreversible damage if exposure continues." Then came the words that would alter the course of their lives. "You need to leave your house. Immediately. Not as soon. Not after you pack." Her voice was clear and direct. "Do not return for clothes. Don't stop to clean up. Don't even go back for toys. The mold is likely embedded in your HVAC system, circulating spores through your entire home. Every minute of exposure puts Lily at greater risk." Time seemed to stop. Sarah and Tom stared at her, struggling to comprehend what they were hearing. Their home, the place where they had hosted birthday parties, where Lily had taken her first steps, where bedtime stories echoed in painted hallways, was a danger zone. A toxic trap. Invisible. Silent. Lethal. It wasn't just a house anymore. It was the source of their daughter's suffering. And they had been unknowingly living in it, day after day, breathing in poison. Sarah reached for Tom's hand, squeezing tightly as the tears welled up. Their perfect home, the one they'd poured their savings and dreams into, was making Lily sick. And if they hadn't discovered it now, it might have been too late. Environmental specialists arrived at the Miller residence later that same day, moving quickly and methodically through the house with sensors, masks, and specialized testing equipment. It didn't take long to confirm Dr. Karama's worst fears. Behind the freshly painted walls, particularly around the newly installed HVAC system, they discovered a disturbing infestation. Extensive colonies of toxic black mold had taken hold, thriving in hidden pockets of moisture and darkness. The spores, invisible to the naked eye, had been quietly released into the air with every cycle of the heating and cooling system, spreading steadily throughout the home. 4 months. The Millers had unknowingly been inhaling these microscopic invaders. Lily, with her small body and developing brain, had been the most vulnerable. The purple spots on her skin and mouth, those eerie, unexpected marks, had been the first visible signs of an invisible threat. A warning her body had desperately tried to give before the damage became irreversible. The final report from the specialists was grim. The house was declared uninhabitable. The level of contamination was so severe that complete remediation would require tearing out walls, ductwork, insulation, essentially gutting the entire structure. The cost of such an overhaul far exceeded the value of the property. The home they had poured love, time, and savings into was lost. But they hadn't lost what mattered most. Because they had acted quickly. Because they had listened to their instincts, and to their doctors, Sarah and Tom had saved their daughter's life. In the weeks that followed, Lily underwent a carefully managed treatment plan. With detoxification support, close neurological monitoring, and a safe, temporary living space, she began to heal. The fever subsided. The purple spots gradually disappeared. And, most importantly, her bright, lively personality returned. Her laughter echoed again, unburdened by confusion. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity once more. She was herself again. What had started as a strange and seemingly minor symptom, a few oddly colored spots in a child's nose, had turned out to be a critical, life-saving clue. It was the only outward sign of a silent, deadly danger lurking just beyond the walls of their home. The experience left a scar, but also a lesson, one that every parent, every homeowner, should take to heart. Sometimes the greatest dangers are the ones we can't see. Would you know the signs of toxic mold before it threatens someone you love? Would you trust your instincts if something felt off in your home? And if the walls around you were quietly poisoning your family, would you be willing to walk away?